Record. Hello, let's talk about the butterfly Baddha bound angle pose. I've just translated that off the top of my head. I did not rehearse it, but I think that's correct. So butterfly pose. Often we see butterfly pose like this with the feet really close, depending on the style. This would be more yang, hatha, vinyasa. And then in yin, we have that diamond shape here. So what we do is we normally come into our Baddha Konasana from a seated position. It doesn't have to be straight legs, it can be. We normally bring one knee in, flexing at the hip, and then we externally rotate and abduct, abduct that leg, and we do the same here. So we bring the soles of the feet together, and that can be a little bit of an inverted position for the ankles. The two thighs are then in the external rotation position. And due to the fact that we've brought the knees into the chest, it's going to make our pelvis rock backwards. And what that does actually for some people is it makes a bit of space. It's moved the anatomy of the pelvis. So when you're in this position, the pelvis might be sitting really snug with the femur, thigh bone. And then when we bring it in, we actually trigger, due to rocking that side back, we trigger that posterior tilt. So that triggers the rounding of the lumbar spine, so it rounds the back like that. So we classically cue people from this position, if we're talking hatha or vinyasa or something yang, we cue them to sit up, so you can lift the chest from the breastbone, the sternum, or we can simply slide the sit bones backwards, lift the crown of the head. And what that will do is it will rock the pelvis from that posteriorly tilted position into the anteriorly tilted position. So as the pelvis rocks forwards, we lengthen, we extend through the vertebra as well, like that. And some people find that it makes more room for them to be able to go forward. So it's a very personal thing. So I'm going to introduce you in this video to just, again, the idea that everybody has a different shape. So some people find it quite nice to lift up and they find a little bit of forward fold here. And other people start to come up and they feel a restriction. They might feel the restriction here at the hamstrings or the adductors as the pelvis is pulling away. It might be a tension problem. Or they might feel it in the groin. They might feel that, oh, something's moved. It was here, kind of back and away, and something's now moved and come up and over, and it's kind of almost like a compression, like a bony compression. So what we're going to see here is different things. A lot of people will then get to here and they'll be like really shaking just to hold it here. That might be because they've reached their maximum. So now the brain has to switch on lots of muscles to make to hold the posture here. Other people will go forwards and be able to relax. So I would say, first of all, when it comes to cueing around what to do with the pelvis and the spine, we can definitely give them the opportunity to try and sit up, anteriorly rotate the pelvis. But I wouldn't make it like you must do that, because some people will find that quite uncomfortable. So if I see people rounding the upper back like this, then maybe we can drop the shoulders away from the ears. Then we can maybe lift the sternum just a little bit. They can get just a little bit of lift, and they might just get a little bit of rotation at the pelvis forwards, lifting into the pose. But I'm not going to say, keep going up, and make them sit there shaking. I think that would probably make some people feel a bit uncomfortable. So what we can do also for that person who's in the pose here, and they're really, really tight and they're not really going anywhere, is we can ask them, first of all, do you feel any tightness in the inner thighs or in the outer thighs? And I'm going to let you look at me, because I'm a great example of one of the answers. So I'm here. You can see there that I'm not going any lower. And you might think, I need to kind of spend time here. Over time, it will drop down. So you come over to me in the class and you ask me, you feel it in the inner thighs, yeah? I say no, nothing. Oh, you feel it in the outer thighs? I'm like, nothing. Do you feel it in the hamstrings? Nothing. So what that means is that's how my skeleton is shaped. So no matter how much and how many times I spend how many minutes I spend in this pose, I am not going to go any deeper than this. So I might say to me, because I'm sitting here like this, and I'm thinking, first of all, I am thinking a little bit ouch on this side. So I might bring myself either a block or a Pilates ball. If you have Pilates balls in class, and you have a small class, it's even more comfortable to have a Pilates ball there. And you might notice that some people will be here, they'll be all the way, they'll be right up here. So even a tall block might still be hard to fit. So you can take the block a little bit lower and support them down here. And if it is the ball, you could put it under the shin as well. That's really comfortable. I think that's more comfortable for me than there. So make sure that you offer different options. Remember that people just prefer different things. So having a few options is really nice. Sometimes I do angle it. If I'm in yin, for example, I angle the block like that so that I don't get the groin pain. And what I say to people in yin or restorative is you don't have to have the blocks, you don't have to have props, but they're there if you would like some support. So that might be because there's a bit of a pain or it doesn't feel great, or you want to be able to relax that half of you so the other half can work. But we don't have to do props. So some people are in this position and they feel perfectly fine and they fold forwards and they love it. Now, the other thing we can do if we don't have many props and we've got somebody like me who's sat like this and let's say they're finding it hard to come up. Oh, they're feeling that as a tension. It's quite stretchy. They can stay there if they want. We could do some arm things. We could do some in and out movements to show the brain, how do we create safety? How do we teach the brain to let those areas relax? That's an option. Or we can slide the feet forwards. So if somebody's really struggling in the classic butterfly and we're cueing people to bring, and they look a bit like me, because I'm definitely not a very good butterfly, then we can definitely move those feet forwards. What that's going to do is it actually will let the pelvis rotate forwards. Just like when I'm in Paschimottanasana, my pelvis absolutely goes forwards, no problem. My problem is only when I send the femur bones back towards the socket because of the shape of my hips. And I'm not very rare. This, unfortunately for me, my hips are very similar to a lot of people that come in to class who haven't done much yoga before. So, but in my case, it's because of the shape. In other people's case, it might be because of the tension. So there's two reasons why the legs are going to pop up like that. Tension, stretch, as in it's all too tight. They're not used to being in that position. And compression, shape of you. So feet forwards is nice. Props are nice, like this. And then we can fold forwards. Depending on the style of yoga that you're teaching, some people do hold the ankles. There's the open book version, I think, in Hatha and Ashtanga. And then there's obviously the drishti. You can look forwards and fold down. And that's just varying degrees of flexion at the hips, flexion of the spine, or not, because sometimes people teach it with a very extended spine, straight spine. That is a pure hip flexion. And with the femur bones out there instead of forwards, we're going to get a lot more of the lower back stretch, maybe the top of the glutes at the back, but the hamstrings are not going to be as stretched compared to here. So it's just a little different position for the pelvis. The pelvis will go back and forwards depending on the position of the legs. And then depending on the style, we're chin to chest or we're up. And I just want to say that depending on your intention in your sequence, it's also fine to let people do The straight spine version, that's good for strength, that's good for isometric, that's good for joint positioning, good for posture, good for postural awareness, good for rounded shoulders, good for forward head carriage. We talked about that the other day. It's not necessarily a reason why people might have pain, but it's good for just getting into the posterior chain. But letting people do this is good for nervous system relaxation, passive stretching, relaxing, switching down, calming the system, that kind of thing. So you can teach both versions, even if it's vinyasa or hatha or whatever. And when I'm teaching yin, I might even do a little drill with the butterfly. We might do the hands here. We might do a little turn. So before we actually go into 2-3 minutes of stillness, I do get them maybe to do some mobility work, and then we can go down and then we can start switching everything off. And then transitioning from butterfly, we can then, if we haven't spent too much time there, we can transition into Janu Shirshasana, which is a really nice one. You can do a bit of turning, a little bit of folding that way, and then side bending that way and swapping over. And there's a nice little sequence that I quite like with this one. So you might go butterfly, Janu, and this might be like a more of a yang style class. You might come up and you're going to do this way, side bend, forwards, flex, back, lift. You could even come up and do some legs, go down, forwards, flex, relax. 1 minute, 30 seconds. So there's just a little idea for you for that. And that is butterfly. When you assist butterfly, you want to bear in mind that when you have somebody in this position, or even this position, or even this position, so anything that's a forward fold, when you go to assist them, you want to remember that when you fold someone forwards, this is a very long lever, and the base of that lever is the low back and sacrum. And that is a really common site for lots of muscles and connective tissues to converge and attach. So if you were to be assisting a butterfly and you come over and you push down here, because that's a very long lever, the weight that you push here on the end of this long lever load arm, is going to transmit quite a lot more force through the base of the lever. So we need to think about going a little bit more down towards the base of the lever. So think proximal versus distal. So instead of ever helping someone by pushing between the shoulder blades, which is still the end of the wrong end of the lever, if we push someone down from there, it's going to create a lot of force at the base of the lever here, which is the joint that's moving. So hips moving here, that's the fulcrum around which the movement's happening. If we push there, lots of force, could be bad, could hurt them. They could pull something here. So always go nice and proximal, meaning closest to the base. So for the arms in anatomy, distal is the most distance. So fingernail versus shoulder. Distal versus proximal, close to the center. So you can place a hand on the low back in the middle, and you can just help them with a little bit of a push, and that will apply a lot less force through the body. If they've got props here, then as you go forwards, you might be pushing them, they might push down into the prop. So remember that also if they have rough edges or wooden edges, you don't want to be pushing someone, especially if you're going to come in and work with the thighs. I recommend with the butterfly assist, not doing a passive assist for the legs, but rather an active assist, and you can also get your students to do this themselves. They can actually apply this technique themselves, or you can do it. So you can either come around, you could kneel around the back or to the side. You can place a hand on the inside of both thighs. This is obviously going to work on people that have tight adductors. So that's going to be a good one for them if they're feeling that it's tight here. We're going to place the hands there, and then we'll push up. And as you push up, say crown of the head to the ceiling. Keep pushing. 3, 2, 1, exhale. Start to let everything go. Really let the legs go heavy. And you'll notice that for people that are not at the compression point like I am, you'll notice that the people that with the tension, they'll drop out of the knees will drop a little bit because after the isometric hold, there's a brief moment in the nervous system where it lets it all relax. So that's the post-isometric relaxation. That's a nice assist, but I wouldn't come and go, let me help you, because we don't know. You could come to me and I could say, hey, you know me, I'm really bendy. Look at how bendy I am. So you're like, oh, I can definitely push her knees down because she's bendy. And I would get excruciating pain in my groin. So I wouldn't want you to do that to me. I much prefer the post-isometric as well. So that's butterfly, really lovely pose. I suppose you can talk about all the poses for a long time, but I'm going to stop there so it's not too long. Thank you very much.